We are always looking for fun and a reason to celebrate anything here at Remnant Stew. I'm your host, Leah.
I'm Phil.
And I'm your host, Steve. There are always celebrations going on all around the world, and today we're bringing you some of the oddest and downright bizarre celebrations and festivals that we could find.
If you have an appetite for the strange and bizarre, then pull up a chair and grab a spoon for another intriguing serving of Remnant Stew. Remnant Stew is gluten-free, organic, made from all natural, free-range ingredients, and guaranteed to provide the recommended daily serving of curiosity.
Well, now, before we dive into those wonderfully weird celebrations, let's take a look at the calendar. Actually, some of these kind of could count as celebrations, too. In fact, tomorrow, Tuesday, February the 1st, is Chinese New Year.
Hey.
Yeah. Also known as Spring Festival or Lunar New Year, it marks the beginning of the year in Chinese calendars. It is celebrated in China by grandchildren bowing down to honor their grandparents. In return, the grandparents present red envelopes to their grandchildren containing cash and wishes for prosperity in the new year.
I could use some of that.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, 2022 is the year of the tiger, replacing 2021. That was the year of the ox. So that might explain a few things about 2021. The ox, kind of slow and ponderous. Tiger should spring right into action, though, don't you think?
That's right.
Crank it right out.
So anyway, Happy New Year to all of our listeners in China.
Yes.
Now, of course, Wednesday, February the 2nd, is Groundhog Day.
Which is that is a weird holiday, I think. It's pretty weird.
Right. Groundhog Day is part of a popular culture among many Americans, and it centers on the idea of the groundhog coming out of its home to, quote, predict the weather.
Oh, yes.
Thousands of years ago, when animalism and nature worship were prevalent, people in Germany believed that the badger had the power to predict the coming of spring. They watched the badger to know when to plant their crops. Well, by the time the first German immigrants settled in Pennsylvania, they probably understood that this was not true. But, traditions die hard, and so they just continued and substituted the groundhog for the badger. Now, of course, the movie Groundhog Day from 1993, starring comedian Bill Murray,
such a
made
good movie.
Punxsutawney Phil in Pennsylvania famous worldwide. Of course, the groundhog, if he sees his shadow, that means there'll be 6 more weeks of winter. But if he doesn't see his shadow, that means it'll be an early spring. Of course, here in the greater cut and shoot area, we're usually hoping for more winter because it's pretty mild here in the winter.
So if the armadillo sees his shadow.
Armadillo sees his shadow, yeah. Now that movie, the film's plot added new meaning to the term Groundhog Day.
That's right.
As something that repeats itself endlessly. It just goes
Over
on and on and on,
over.
over and over and over, the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day.
I remember the alarm clock going off with Sonny and
Sonny and
Cher.
Cher.
They say we're young and we don't know. Well, Saturday, February 5th. Now, this is a good day. Rosa Parks Day. On December 1st, 1955, African-American seamstress Rosa Parks was traveling in a Montgomery, Alabama city bus when the bus driver asked her to vacate her seat for a white man. The driver's request was standard practice of racial segregation in buses at the time. Rosa Parks refused to leave her seat on the grounds of fairness, freedom, and equality, and I heard her talk about it one time also because her feet were tired, she said. She just had enough. As a result, she was arrested and convicted of violating the laws of segregation, known as the Jim Crow laws. She appealed her conviction and formally challenged the legality of segregation. At the same time, civil rights activists led a boycott of the Montgomery bus system. The boycott lasted for 381 days. That kind of hit the city in their pocketbook because people were not riding the bus that normally would. Lasting into December 1956, when the United States Supreme Court ruled that the segregation law was unconstitutional and that the Montgomery buses should be integrated. This boycott kickstarted other civil rights protests throughout the United States. So it's a good day to honor and remember Rosa Parks, and also note that February is celebrated as Black History Month.
That's right. And what Rosa Parks did was absolutely courageous. It was. But did you know that she wasn't the first one to do that?
I have heard that there are others that did it before her. Yes, for sure.
That's right. So 9 months before Rosa Parks defied segregation laws, 15-year-old Claudette Colvin did exactly the same thing.
Claudette Colvin.
Colvin. And so she was, so later on, Rosa Parks eclipsed, her act.
Right.
And I heard, and I don't have proof, that they didn't want a teenager.
Right.
To
jumpstart this.
Yeah, jumpstart all of that. So maybe the Rosa Parks thing was kind of a reenactment.
She was a better person to lead that movement. Right.
That's right. And so instead of it being, she was tired and all of that, that she was kind of actually set up to do that.
Right.
Which makes it, to me, it doesn't take anything away from it whatsoever. It was still a very poignant point in history.
Exactly.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so before we get into our topic today, I got a couple things. We got a couple 5-star ratings.
No.
Wow.
5-star reviews, yes.
Nice.
And so Rebecca, or Cat Lover 02220, no, sorry, Cat Lover 02202 says, "This is amazing. I love how the podcast is in the format of learning but fun."
Yay.
And
That's what we try to do. Learning but fun.
And then Marvel Lover 2.0, I don't know about all these
Whatever.
2s and zeros,
Yeah.
says, "I love this podcast. Best podcast ever."
Wow.
Yeah, we'll take it. Thank
yes,
you.
we'll take it. Thank
Thanks,
you
Mom
so
and
much.
Dad. Oh, wait a minute.
Wait.
No.
So Cat Lover's your mom and Marvel Lover's dad? What?
Well, I don't know.
Sure,
Probably
take your
somebody's. But we're very grateful for those wonderful
We
reviews.
absolutely are.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
All right, let's just take a quick little break here and let us just speak to you from our heart for a second. As you know, we are currently in our 3rd season here at Remnant Stew, and we have brought you so many crazy and fun stories in our 40 or so episodes. We have been downloaded over 7,000 times across 42 different countries.
Wow.
And we are so
Around the world.
thankful to every single one of our listeners.
Yes.
We really love what we do, and we are committed to continue bringing you more stories of the strange and bizarre for many more seasons. But while it is free for you to subscribe and listen, it isn't free for us to produce.
That's right. So we are asking a favor from all of our listeners. No, we're not asking for money,
But if you are so inclined, we're not going to stop you.
Don't pay attention to Phil.
no, we are asking instead that you take just a couple minutes of your time to show us some love by writing a short note saying what you love about Remnant Stew.
Yeah.
We are currently in a contest for emerging podcasts to be awarded sponsorships, and the notes that you send will help our standing in the contest.
Absolutely.
It takes just a couple of minutes. Please go to our website, www.remnantstew.com, and click on Show the Love and follow
Show
the
the love.
instructions from there. It really is very easy, quick to do, and it would mean so much to us.
Absolutely.
So thank you in advance.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And now, back to our regularly scheduled episode. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, now, throughout America and around the world, we find all kinds of celebrations. From religious festivals to rowdy competitions, it appears that we all look forward to finding something to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Leah, I know that up in your original hometown, up in Louisville, Kentucky, the Great Kentucky Derby was a major annual event. Of course, I've seen pictures of all the women decked out in fancy hats and so forth.
I love the tradition of the derby hats. I left Kentucky before I was able to participate in any of that. I was a teenager when I left.
Right.
But, the Southern genteel sort of event, proper dress was very important, and the hats were always a part of it. But it was the 1960s when the hats started getting bigger and more elaborate and bigger. And now it's it's a deal, quite a deal. But yeah, so
It's a great deal for the hat manufacturing industry, I think, as well.
yeah, yes, that's true.
Women used to wear hats often and not so much anymore, but in Kentucky they do around Derby Day. Now, of course, here locally in the greater Cut and Shoot area, every October we have the annual Cajun Catfish Festival, of course, highlighted by the Catfish Pageant.
Which I'm not.
Is it the little catfishes with the little hats and they rock them? Oh, wait, sorry.
And their whiskers.
And their whiskers.
Okay, so that catfish festival has been going on for over 30 years.
Well, that's not a tradition. I don't know what is.
Right,
Right,
seriously.
but I had no idea there was a catfish pageant. I didn't know. I mean, like,
There's
who
I
wants-
didn't know there was a pageant either until a little bit ago.
I looked it up, and so it like has different age groups or whatever, and it's Mr. and Mrs. Catfish.
Mr. and Mrs. Catfish.
So that's interesting.
Very good. Well, a few years ago, my wife and I were in Italy. We happened to be in the town of Formia, Italy, which was holding its annual celebration of John the Disciple. Now, you might think a religious festival such as this would be rather somber, but not so.
Oh, no. Why would you go small?
Well, hey,
Or
you know,
low-key.
we know all about Mardi Gras.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's kind
There's
of the
nothing
similar
low-key
effect.
about anything of these.
The town was rocking until well after midnight with lots of very loud fireworks, but it was fun. As nice as these festivals are, though, we know what our listeners really like. You want the weird and bizarre, correct?
Yes.
Of course.
Well, wait no more, as we have accumulated information on some of the weirdest festivals to be found anywhere in the world. From a terrific website called headout.com, headout.com, we find a fun article called The 20 Most Unusual and Unique Festivals in the World.
Nice.
Now, we won't touch on all 20, but here are some
Aw.
of the more interesting ones. I bet I'm going to botch the name of this town, but help me out if I do. From El Salvador, we find La Bolas de Fuego, or the Fireballs.
I think
Oh,
that's
even
the way you
better.
say it. Yeah.
Each year on the evening of August 31st, residents of the small Salvadoran town of Nejapa, 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 paint their faces to look like skulls,
Okay.
soak their clothes in a pair of gardening gloves in water, and take to the streets in two teams for the annual Bolas del Fuego, or Fireball Festival. This activity is a commemoration of the 1658 El Playón volcanic eruption. According to local legend, the eruption was actually a battle between the local patron saint, San Geronimo, and the devil.
Of course.
As a tribute to this divine clash between good and evil, Nejapa becomes an unregulated battleground for two warring groups who marinate balls of cloth in kerosene, light them on fire, and
Marinate.
hurl them at one another at close range. Boy, if that doesn't sound like a good time, I don't know what does.
That sounds like my house when all my kids come home.
It's like bottle rocket tossing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
seriously. This is... Ooh.
Flanking crowds cheer them on.
Of course.
I don't know which team you cheer for, but okay.
Right? Who cares? They're throwing fireballs at each other.
Right. History has it that the natural disaster forced the villagers of the old town to flee and settle into their current location. Though dangerous, La Bolas del Fuego has been running now for more than 100 years and now falls among the top unusual festivals worldwide.
Oh,
I'm going to go out on a limb there and say that men decided to celebrate this way.
Perhaps drunk men, you think?
Yes. And no questions asked at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What could go wrong?
We're just going to toss some fireballs at each other. Just duck.
Now, let's move on. Now, of course, Brazil has Rio Carnival. Everybody knows about that. But you might not know about South Korea. South Korea has something even better, they think, called the Boryong Mud Festival. Yeah, that's right. Situated about 200 kilometers from Seoul, the village of Boryong is widely popular for its mud cosmetics. Yeah, mud cosmetics. That sounds like a good seller, doesn't it?
So are they going to be doing what the fireball kind party
Well,
is?
It's not quite
Oh, okay.
throwing the mud at each other. Well, maybe a little mudslinging goes on. You never know. Anyway, what began as a marketing event in 1998 later turned into a renowned festival drawing in millions of visitors every year. While immersing yourself in mud can seem a bit odd, Boryong's mud stands out for its rich natural minerals and nutrients that have incredible benefits for the skin. The annual festival, held in July, runs 10 days straight, housing a series of activities that will get you drenched in the mud, such as mud pools, mud slides, and mud skiing, along with an array of makeover and massage facilities as well. According to their website, the Boryong Mud Festival is the one and only festival where you can make your childhood dream of rolling in the fresh mud come true. Did you ever dream about that, Phil? Rolling in the mud?
No, I just went and did it.
Oh, okay. You were an action guy, not a dreamer, I see. Anyway, if you didn't have that dream, well, if you get a chance to go to it, you will definitely have it now. Boryong Mud Festival is the hottest global event where you can forget about your stressful adult life, frolic in the mud, and spend a carefree weekend with your new friends. Chill in the mineral-rich mud and chase the summer heat away.
So we go from fireball parties to the relaxation of sitting in the mud.
Exactly.
So it's probably a good thing that you take your burns there after the party.
Yeah, there you go.
You could probably soothe those burns in the cool mud of Boryong. Now let's travel to Italy, shall we? I love Italy. I've been there a few times. An ancient land like Italy must have some very unusual festivals. But one of the oldest to be found in the boot-shaped peninsula is the Battle of the Oranges, which takes place in the small town of Ivrea, I-V-R-E-A, Ivrea, or maybe it's Ivrea, I'm not sure. According to the website myvenice.life.com, the Ivrea Battle of the Oranges is thought of as one of the oldest festivals in Italy. The Battle of Oranges finds its origin way back in the 12th century, so that's been around for quite a while.
Wow.
Is it still going strong?
It is still going
It's
strong.
still going
but
strong.
The way it started is really interesting. You see, there was an egregious baron who not only made the lives of the people difficult, but he also imposed the law of jus primus noctis, or simply put, this refers to the so-called right of nobles in a locality to violate women who were betrothed the night before their wedding.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's not a good one.
Yeah, this is...
I don't think this
okay.
baron's going
So
to last long.
that's the way it was going. Now, the baron went around abducting young girls who were about to be wed and sexually assaulted them. Countless women were victims of the baron's tyranny until he chose to abduct Violetta, the daughter of a miller. Refusing to obey this appalling law, the formidable woman unsheathed the sword and beheaded the baron when he tried to lay hands on her.
That's
Yay,
right.
Violetta.
Take it to him. Take it off him.
She then took his head and displayed it on the battlement in the town, which ignited the fire rebellion of the people.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just what she
Yes.
started. The whole town rose up and fought against the oppression brought about by the nobles and ended up destroying their castle. Eventually, they succeeded in establishing a free town. The Battle of Oranges is not just a food fight. It recognized the valor of a young woman and how she freed an entire town. Now, during the festival, areas throughout Ivrea are allocated to groups of orange throwers who represent soldiers of the evil baron. They ride in horse-drawn carriages throughout the town, terrorizing the people by hitting them with oranges.
I'm just walking about my normal day and whack!
An orange could sting pretty good if it hit you just
Probably
right.
whelp you a little well.
However, there are 9 teams of other orange throwers who are also chosen, who are on the side of the people. These teams are on foot. They strike back at the throwers on the carriages, and this is where things get really chaotic. Oranges seem to wind up everywhere, on the ground, on the floor, stuck to walls, on lampposts, and as far as the eye can see. We're talking 700 tons of oranges here in Ivrea.
You know, you gotta know that's gotta get smelly at some point.
Might draw some flies, I'm
It
thinking,
was
too.
probably good at the beginning, but
Now,
then it got dirty.
If you want to go, the Battle of the Oranges occurs each year for 3 days just before the beginning of Carnival or Mardi Gras, so it's probably happening in February this year. And so here's your chance to jump on out there.
It's a 3-day
to
fight?
Ivrea. A 3-day fight of oranges.
I'm kind of interested in, like, I was kind of looking it up right now, and Google's not helping me out. And I have some of the weirdest Google search histories. But what does oranges have to do with this?
Yeah, where did the oranges come
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think
Is that what they were growing out in the field?
Maybe that's
And
what
they're-
maybe that's where the barons were making their money.
I think, okay, now, again, don't quote me, and I couldn't find it real quick, but I think oranges were associated with purity. And so, like, a lot of Renaissance painters used oranges
I
as
see.
symbolism in that. But I'm again, don't.
Let's
quote me
go
on
with
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds
yeah,
fun.
that's
Sure.
it. That's
Why
it. Okay. You know, we just fly by the seat of our pants here. Okay, so
If we don't know the truth, we'll make it up. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Facts?
yeah, you know.
What are that?
Okay, so I have this really cool celebration that we've mentioned before. So Ypres is a city in West Belgium that has an odd little celebration held every 3 years since 1955 on the second Sunday of May.
Every 3 years on the second Sunday of May, like clockwork.
Like clockwork. There's a reason why it's every 3 years. And okay, so we talked about this in the Oddity du Jour in our episode on
Oh,
remarkable inventions.
I think I remember this.
But
yeah.
it's so weird, I feel like we have to include it here.
Exactly.
Is this
So-
cat checking?
Yep, it's
Ah,
cat chucking. It's cat
yeah.
chucking.
Cat throwing festival.
Kattenstoit, or Parade of Cats, or colloquially known as Cat Throwing Festival, but Phil calls it
Cat checking.
So from culturetrip.com, this is a quote, the afternoon sees an impressive parade with floats, giant cats, and about 2,000 local volunteers dressed in medieval garb.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
So it's like a Renaissance festival, but, with cats.
With cats.
Yeah.
The highlight of the day comes when the procession arrives at the bell tower. The jester throws plush cats into the sea of people on the market square below. Whoever catches a toy gets to make a wish.
All right.
Nice.
So they are flinging stuffed animal cats, toys, not taxidermy.
Right. That would hurt.
Off the bell tower, having an entire festival surrounding it. So how did a city come to celebrate this? Well, the origins are in the folklore of the town. Its historical relationship with cats is a somewhat dark one. Back in medieval times around the 12th century, Ypres had a thriving cloth industry, importing huge bales of wool and storing these along with spun fabrics in the Lockenhall.
The cloth
or
hall. Yeah.
Cloth hall,
Yeah.
That's right. So this proved to be, just a huge draw for mice and rats who would chew holes through the town's livelihood.
Well, that would eat into your profits, wouldn't it?
That's right.
Take
quite
a big
literally.
bite out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the solution to the problems was cats. So they brought in cats to control
why
the
not?
rodent population, but then there was a cat
Imagine that.
Well, let's go back
problem.
to that sentence. They brought in cats. Where do you bring in cats from? I mean, bring in cats.
Every time I seem to, somebody goes, is there, is there
We'll
any
just
cats?
import 'em.
Everybody has kittens,
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So anyway, they brought in all these cats, and that became a problem because their population got out of hand. And if you think about the Middle Ages,
Uh-huh.
the cat was really side-eyed as being a big part of witchcraft and devilry. So to deal with the problem of the town being overrun with evil felines, the townspeople took to flinging the live cats off the top of the 70-meter high tower.
That would get messy.
So that's like 230 feet for us
Way
Americans.
up there.
This brutal population control lasted all the way up until 1817, when the last live cat checked off the tower actually survived the fall and ran off in a huff.
I guess.
Yeah. So that's when the town decided to change their ways, because if an evil devil cat's going to survive, you don't make them
one
mad.
out of how many thousand they chucked off the top?
Yeah, maybe we don't do this anymore. So no
It
cats
bounced.
were thrown in the city of Ypres for over a century until they decided to revive the tradition
Hey, why not?
in the 1930s by throwing stuffed animals.
Oh, that's cute.
So according to, this is still funny to me, the way this just came about. According to amusingplanet.com, in 1938, a group of young altar boys organized a sort of cat parade, because that's what altar boys do,
Well, they read the
I'm
history
thinking
books
so,
and were
yeah.
like, hey, let's bring this one back and see if it sticks.
So each was carrying a toy cat, like you do.
Sure.
When they reached the church, they first had a feast, and then one of the boys climbed up the bell tower and started throwing out the cats.
Yeah.
So the Festival of the Cats remained mostly a local festival until the 1950s, when folklorist parades became all the rage. And so on the second Sunday of Lent in 1955, the first magnificent parade was organized with 1,500 extras, all dressed in gorgeous costumes. Since then, every 3 years, the city has been celebrating Cats Festival. And the reason that it's every 3 years, because that's how long it took for the population to get out of control.
Oh, I see.
The festival was supposed to be held last year, but due to COVID, the celebration was moved to this May on the 7th and 8th. So
2022, May
That's
7th and
right.
8th. I think Remnant Stew road trip.
Right.
Yep,
Probably
that's
need
right.
an airplane for that one.
Sponsorships, come on.
Yeah, that's right. We'll wear your T-shirt on our back at the Cat Festival. Come on.
We'll take it with us.
Exactly. Well, now from Belgium, let's travel north of the United States border into our friends up in Canada, Canada's Yukon territory, and experience.
Oh, we're going way up.
We're going way up. That's right. The International Hair Freezing Competition.
Okay.
That's right. The International Hair Freezing Competition. The contest has been around since 2011. Well, that's a long tradition, isn't it? Steadily gaining popularity over the many, many years since then, as the outlandish image has been getting global publicity.
Did it just hit a decade, or is it now plus a decade? It's plus one.
I think we're in the second
Second
decade
decade.
now.
Yeah,
Second
yeah.
decade, right. According to CNNtravel.com, the contest takes place at a location called Takini Hot Pools, which is a natural hot spring near Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory. To enter, you need to visit Takini hot pools between December and March on a day when the temperature is below negative 20 degrees Celsius or negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is certainly not rare in those parts. There are a few steps involved in achieving the perfect look. First, dip your head in the hot spring and wet your hair completely. By the way, freezing your hair won't damage it, they promise. Then, allow the cold air to slowly freeze your hair. As it freezes, you can freeform it into any strange shape you like. The stranger, the better. I think we have some pictures of
We
this.
do, and we're going to put
them
them
on our
up.
Facebook page, yeah. Staff advises visitors to keep their ears warm by periodically dipping them back in the hot water. You don't want to freeze your ears.
Yeah,
just
let's not
freeze
freeze your ears.
hair. Right. And you're going to have to be patient. All that wet hair will eventually freeze, eyebrows and eyelashes included. Finally, once you're happy with your style, ring the bell near the pool entrance and staff will come running to take your photo. Contestants are awarded in 5 categories: best male, best female, best group, so you can get a whole family
group
together
competition. Nice.
right there. Nongsham's People's Choice, and Tim Hortons Most Creative. Tim Hortons, I think, is a restaurant up in Canada. Anyway, the winner for each category gets 2,000 Canadian dollars and free hot springs passes for a whole year.
Hey.
All right.
Now,
Like a good deal.
I could do a whole lot more with my hair than you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would be a judge.
yeah. I can get my beard to stand up, I guess, a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Well, and now let's move on from Canada across the ocean to Spain for a very weird celebration. Celebrated each year in the small town of Castrillo de Murcia, the Salto de Colacho. I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. Salto del Coleco.
I think it's
There you go.
Coleco.
Coleco, yeah, okay, that's better. Salto del Coleco is a week-long celebration which culminates with a man dressed as a devil terrorizing locals and jumping over babies.
Jumping babies.
Right.
Jumping over babies.
Jumping over babies. Yeah,
Okay,
jumping over babies.
babies.
Controversial as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, the celebration is believed to cleanse the newborns of their original sin.
Frowned upon by the
Right,
Catholic
frowned
Church.
upon by the Pope.
Jumping
That's
over the baby as dressed as the devil
Right.
cleanses them from their...
Exactly.
I'm not... Okay.
I'm not following the logic, but,
Yeah.
they say it works. Okay.
Are there oranges and fireballs involved?
Well, not yet.
Okay, cool.
According to a website called culturetrip.com, there is no record of when the first Salto del Coleco, or Jump of the Devil, was organized. Local historians believe it has taken place every year since at least the 1600s, so it's been going on for a
It's
while.
been a while.
Longer than, 2011?
Yeah.
Longer than 2011, but that's okay.
Longer than hair freezing.
Everything has to start sometime.
That's
Right.
right.
The babies are laid in swaddling cloths on paths in the middle of the street, and grown men, yes,
Yeah,
adult
you don't want them
males,
getting up and crawling away. They need
No,
this.
Need to be swaddled. Yet adult males dressed as devils run down the street and hurtle over the infants. This is supposed to cleanse them, the babies, not the men, of all evil doings. This traditional combination of religion and Spanish folklore proves to be great fun, if not a little scary to watch. According to the Atlas Obscura, there have been no known injuries caused by the flying devils. However, the strange practice has been frowned upon by the Catholic Church, with Pope Benedict asking the Spanish people to distance themselves from the practice. However,
And now a bunch of mamas, too, are frowning, going, yeah, no.
yeah. However, the ritual continues to this day. No one's going to tell the people of Castrillo del Murcia that they can't send their devil men hurtling over infants. Now, let's say your parents were too scaredy cats to include you as part of this ritual. What can you do to bask in the glow of the protective
Are you getting
rights
swaddled, too?
offered by the Salto del Colaco? Oh, Colacho, Colaco. Calico.
I don't know.
Wow.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. Anyone who has not been blessed with receiving this protection during their early childhood and has lived life looking over their shoulder, waiting for bad things to happen, well, then in their adulthood, they can choose to take part in an exercise called Hogueras. This involves jumping through fire. Oh,
there was our fireballs.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go.
Fire
Oh, yeah.
isn't okay.
Maybe you're supposed to hold oranges, too. Well,
Completely
anyway.
jumping through hoops. Got it.
Yeah, jumping through fire is intended to protect them from illness and other catastrophes. And this information came from SpanishFiestas.com.
Which that sounds like an awesome website.
Now, while we're on the topic of babies,
Oh, sure. Why not?
let's leap from Spain and go halfway around the world to the island nation of Japan, where we will discover the Naki Sumo Baby Crying Contest. That's right. This comes to us from the smartlocal.com. The Naki Sumo Crying Contest. You see, with a history of more than 400 years, the Naki Sumo Baby Crying Contest.
Say that 5 times.
It's not your baby crying contest.
Naki, it's N-A-K-I. Naki Sumo Baby Crying Contest is a traditional festival organized annually in shrines across Japan. Typically held on Children's Day, which is the 5th of May, the premise of the traditional event is simple. Sumo wrestlers compete to get babies to cry.
All right. That summed it up.
2 sumo wrestlers, each with a baby in a hand, will enter the dohyo, which is the wrestling ring where matches are actually held. There, they have to do everything and anything at their disposal to induce some tears. This includes making silly or scary faces, loud noises, or bouncing the baby lightly. The first infant to wail will win the competition. If 2 competing babies happen to burst into tears simultaneously, the one with the louder cry will be declared the winner and blessed with the good health. If the babies refuse to cooperate and burst out laughing instead, then the priest/referee will don a scary mask and try to induce some tears himself. Making babies cry may sound counterintuitive.
Have they not seen Monsters, Inc.?
Really? But the traditional event has its roots in the old Japanese saying, Naku ko wasudatsu, which means, where are the keys to my Datsun? No, that's not what it means. It means, I'm sorry, wrong line here. It means crying children grow. Traditionally, it is believed that a crying baby has the power to ward off evil spirits, and a strong, loud cry implies that a child will grow strong.
Yeah,
and
no
healthy.
one wants to stick around for that.
Well, you know,
You might be an evil spirit.
they used to spank babies when they were born to get them to cry.
That's right.
You know,
Mhm.
Get them lungs going.
Right, get the lungs going. Thus, the event is hugely popular among parents, believe it or not. Most shrines require an advanced application and a fee of about $125. For the more popular shrines, a lottery system is even used to determine the lucky infants who get to participate in the competition.
Because there's only so many sumos.
Right. If you have a temperamental baby who cries easily or know someone who does, this is their time to shine. Participation is
This
not...
contest is rigged.
No, it's not limited to locals for good reason, as tears are universal. So if you're planning to take your baby from the United States to compete, maybe they can get in some practice during the 19-hour plane
flight.
ride over to Japan, and you'll certainly be very popular with your seatmates.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Let's bring it down a notch. How about a festival celebrating near-death experiences?
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it does sound like that, right?
I mean, fireballs, oranges, cat tossing. Yeah, why not? Let's go. Let's go near death.
Have either one of you come close to death? Like,
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't.
Oh,
so
well,
I think my mom killed me a couple times and brought me
If
back.
now looks or thoughts could kill, I've been dead millions of times. No worries there.
No, I've come close a few times in my life. But the Fiesta de Marta de Ribartame, I think I said that right, is an annual event held on July 29th every year in the small town of Las Nieves in Spain. So the city...
we're back to Spain already.
Back to Spain. So the city more than doubles its population of just over 4,000 each year as people come to pay their respects to the Saint of Death, Santa Marta, or Saint Martha. So if you recognize Martha from the Bible, she was the sister
Of
of
Lazarus.
Lazarus. Yeah, that was brought back from the dead by Jesus. And so that's the association with near-death experiences. And I've always wanted to ask Lazarus, what was that
what was
like?
like? I mean,
where
come
were?
on.
Yeah. Anyway,
being
so
called back.
during the festival, locals and now increasingly those from surrounding areas as well that have had a brush with death in the past year come to give thanks to the saint for their survival. There is a procession through the town led by an effigy of Santa Marta with people following and chanting, Virgin Mary, I'm sorry, not Virgin Mary, I'm sorry, that's my Catholicism coming out.
Right. Wow.
Virgin Santa Marta, Star of the North, we bring you those who saw death. The people making up the parade are the loved ones of those who had the near-death experience.
Oh, okay.
Their friends and family dress as if for a funeral and carry their survivor through the streets in a coffin. So those those without family or friends attending the festival struggle to carry their own coffin through the streets.
Remember, you must die. That was from a different podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
Memento Mori.
Memento Morum.
The procession, the parade, is a somber one and ends at a chapel where Mass then takes place. The chapel is way too small now for everyone to fit inside, so it's broadcast through speakers to the people gathered outside. And, and so this is, it's a time of reflection and everything, and it's kind of somber, but...
Whoa, I nearly died.
Yeah, wait
now
till
let's
it's
have a
over.
party.
There is a lively celebration. The spectators have a great time dancing, eating, and lighting off fireworks. So there's fire
of course.
involved.
All kinds of fire.
And then there's vendors selling food and religious mementos. It's a chance for everyone to share any stories that they have of coming close to death. The Fiesta de Marta de Bartolome is a joyous celebration of the gift of life. So nice. I got my info from SpanishFiestas.com.
Hey, we like that website.
That's right. Okay, so lightening it up a little bit. Every April, the people of, I think it's Caripala.
K-A-I-R.
It's probably Kairapala. I bet that's it.
That sounds good.
A village in southern India celebrate the annual Ugadi festival by participating in the Pittakala War, which often leaves many...
The Pittakala War.
The Pittakala War.
So they reenact the Pittakala War.
P-I-D-A-K-A-L-A.
Now wait.
Or at least...
Listen.
Okay.
Hold on.
I got
Wait
questions.
For it. Wait for it. Okay, so the participation in this Pittakala War often leaves many participants injured, and so you ask, what is Pittakala? Well, Pittakala means cow dung.
Oh, hey, we've done that here in Texas.
Yeah,
they won't admit that the Firebar War has anybody injured, but
the
Pittakala War, they're like, people get hurt.
That we know about cows like that. It dries to this part.
It's rocks.
So every year, the people of Kairapala and neighboring villages take part in the symbolic war that occurs over a mythological Hindu marriage dispute.
Well, now, keeping in mind, the cows are sacred in India, right?
So there's a lot of them.
It could be blessing by
getting whacked.
Clunked with some cow dung. You're being blessed.
So,
I bless you. Whack.
It's actually... a reenactment of a dispute.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, we're going to have too much fun with this, and she won't get through this whole segment.
We're going to spend 2 hours on this one. One side throws Pittakala or cow patties in the name of the goddess Budrakali, I think, while the other do so in the name of Lord Veerabhadraswamy.
That was very impressive.
That
was really good.
Thank you.
Wow.
Until one side wins and they all celebrate the wedding of the two. So according to legend,
know who won?
Everyone else is down.
Okay. You run out of ammunition.
I'm thinking, and I could be wrong. Okay. So according to legend, Lord, here I go again, Veerabhadraswamy, a fearsome form of the Hindu god Shiva, I can say Shiva, that's easy, and the goddess Budrakali, fell in love and decided to marry. In order to tease his beloved, dude Swami, declared that he no longer wanted to get married.
Uh-oh.
This is not going to end well.
I'll play a trick on her. She'll like it. It'll be funny.
This will be fun.
Yeah, this enraged her and her clansmen, and they retaliated by beating the mischievous groom with cow patties.
Oh.
The other side retaliated, but the battle ended in compromise and the divine wedding took place.
Yeah, but she never trusted him after that.
Yeah, so listen, the villagers now celebrate their union by reenacting their mythical battle using the same unconventional weapons. So mounds of dried cow dung are collected and heaped in the center of the village for like days, weeks in advance.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and participants are split into two. And so for those of you that don't know much about cow patty, like they don't smell a whole lot.
Yeah, that kind of goes
dry.
away. Yeah, when they're dried out, it's just like
so. I mean, I'm not
throwing dirt balls. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's not gross. Like I'm not loving it. But,
you know, you're getting hit by it.
But it's better than a steaming pile of fresh. You know,
you don't want a fresh one.
So the participants are split into two groups.
I quit. That was too fresh.
One on this side, some on this side. Anyway, so spectators climb into trees and nearby rooftops to avoid being hit.
That's going to stop it.
And their participants believe this annual tradition brings them good health and prosperity, because why not?
If you survive it, sure.
And will also bring rain to the village, hopefully, after that, right?
We got to watch.
Then it's going to be well fertilized, too, once the rain comes.
And at the end of the day, just like the mythical battle, the two sides come together to finish out the celebration in harmony.
And party.
Info from, get this, randomtimes.com.
Okay.
And, you know, here in Texas, we have things like cow patty bingo.
Right.
You've seen that. If you're not familiar,
it's a true weird thing, but leave it to us.
It's also called cow plot bingo, cow chip bingo, and it works by allowing a well-fed cow to meander around a pasture that's been fenced off and marked off in squares, or sometimes like on pavement in a parking lot that's been marked off by chalk. So each square is clearly numbered, and those numbers are sold off like raffle tickets. And if the cow decorates your square with the cow patty, then you win. So what you win may vary from money to a specific prize, and I've seen contests where you get to choose from a selection of baked goods, because, you know, cow patties, baked goods,
why not?
Yeah,
you
know. A pan of banana pudding made in exchange for a cow chip seems like a fair trade to me.
Right. One of my favorite memories when I was a kid, I had an uncle who was actually a Secret Service man. He worked for the Treasury Department in Washington, and when he came to Texas to visit once, we took him to the LBJ Ranch, and he actually found some of LBJ's cows' patties, and he was so excited he took them back to Washington, D.C. and handed them out to his friends. So.
Oh my God.
Anything's a memento, people. That's just all we're saying.
Souvenir. Oh my goodness.
Right.
And now for something completely off topic and off kilter. Brace yourself for the oddity du jour.
Well, now it's time for the oddity du jour. And this one we're going way back in time to the year 1697 and to the country of Russia. And the Russians are Peter the Great. Now, he set out in that year on a 2.5-year tour of Europe. He wanted to see out what was out west of him.
Yeah, why not?
And he chose to travel incognito, adopting the name Sergeant Peter MacLeod. They'll never know who I really am. Nonetheless, excited rumors of his visit spread from town to town, heralding him as a giant, 7 feet tall, brilliant, and only half civilized. Well, those things don't
only
quite
half,
go
you know.
Anyway, the trip would consume the next 2 years. And for a time, he even worked at a Dutch shipyard to learn shipbuilding techniques. He visited heads of state, collections of natural curiosities, and he threw legendarily wild parties. One particularly raucous event left every one of his host's chairs smashed to pieces, his paintings shredded into ribbons, and chunks of pavement torn out of the ground. Now, that's a heck of a party.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes.
It's the first rock concert right there.
After his trip was over, he returned back to Russia, and he immediately launched into a process of, quote, Europeanizing his homeland. And the first casualty of the Tsar's new enthusiasms were the beards of his court nobles.
Uh-oh.
Peter shocked his guests by shaving his own beard and then insisted that each of the noblemen present do the same. He doubled down at his New Year's banquet, at which his razor-wielding jester worked the crowd, giving a box on the ears to anyone who seemed reluctant to shave. Peter then issued a decree that any man in Russia who refused to shave was to be subject to a, quote, beard tax. That's right, a beard tax.
Wow.
The idea quickly ran afoul of the Russian Orthodox Church, which had long held that uncut facial hair was a symbol of piety. Man was created in the image of God, and that includes the beard. To shave it was a grave sin, they said. I never pictured God with a beard, but okay. Another Russian tradition that Peter tried to change was wearing of long coats. Evidently, he felt that the shorter jackets that he had seen in Paris were much more stylish than the long robes worn by citizens of Moscow. I'm kind of thinking Moscow's a lot colder than Paris.
Yeah.
Right? You might want the long
Anything.
jacket for the
Right.
wind.
And the beard.
Anyway,
And the beard.
yeah, exactly. He set up mannequins outside of the Moscow city gate to illustrate the new fashion for all to see. Tailors who continued to sell Russian-style jackets ran the risk of steep fines, and anyone walking the street in an old-fashioned robe was liable to have it shorn short by the Tsar's inspectors. Well, in 1705, a group of military officers finally had enough of the Tsar's stressful new rules. They were known as the Streltsy. They initiated an open revolt in the town of Astrakhan. A letter from the rebels proclaimed that they were taking a stand for the Christian faith and against shaving and foreign dress. The revolt was crushed, though, and hundreds of rebels lost their lives. And thus, for the rest of Peter the Great's reign, any citizen who wished to sport whiskers was forced to show evidence of having paid the annual beard tax. And this information came from a website called dailygester.com, JSTER.com. So, beard tax for your auditor.
So I think you
Was
did
it based on length? I mean, I just
don't know.
got
Just having a
questions. I've
beard.
got questions.
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
like stubble.
I mean, seriously, it's like what point
No,
is?
shave it up.
Yeah, you got to
or
keep
maybe,
it clean.
Maybe the tax was based on length, like you know.
But it's an
Longer
annual.
the
It's an
more.
annual tax.
Yeah, well, and so
Yeah.
at a certain time, I
Yeah,
don't know.
they-
You have to pay the
I don't
tax,
know.
and you can grow your beard that
for
year.
the year,
Yeah.
and then you have to shave it.
So
if
a
you
few
don't pay it again.
episodes ago, you did an oddity on high heels, men's
Right.
high heels.
Right.
So like you are like a men's
Fashionista.
And into the fashions, of the oddity fashions.
and
That's what I'm known for.
okay. So bringing it back to festivals and celebrations, what about a worm charming festival?
Well, why not?
Oh, we've already gone through cow tossing, fireballing,
Cow tossing? You
Oh,
mean
sorry.
cow poop tossing?
cat poop
Cat
tossing,
tossing.
cat
Cat
chucking,
yeah.
cat chucking,
Yeah.
orange tosses,
And frozen
fireballs, frozen hair,
hair. Yeah.
Okay.
kolaches. Oh wait, no, sorry,
Jumping over babies.
jumping over babies.
All right.
Okay, so now we have the Worm Charming Festival, which is relatively new as it began in the 1980s. When a drunk man.
Imagine this.
Wait. Let me guess. In England?
Wait. Hold my beer.
in Devon County, England.
I knew it.
Stumbled into a field to relieve himself.
There you go.
And then stood there in a stupor watching earthworms wiggling up out of the ground, apparently in response to his peeing on them. He called all of his friends over to come have a
Check
look.
it out.
Hey, mate, come watch this.
You're never gonna believe it.
So worm charming is any method, including relieving yourself, used to coax worms to come out of the ground. So instead of digging, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Why word for it?
Since 1984, the town of Blackhoughton, I think that's how it's pronounced, there in Devon, has held an annual worm charming festival each May in which participants compete to see who can collect the most worms in a 15-minute period. Luckily, they use many other methods than peeing. Some use pitchforks to tap the ground, mimicking a pecking bird. Some put speakers in the ground or beat drums.
Why would they make the worm come out if the bird's
right.
pecking out?
So, well, and I think everything is like about
Okay.
the
anyway.
vibrations and the, you know.
Ah.
And so one woman tap dances on a board to the Star Wars theme,
What?
which I mean, I like
Okay.
tap
Dun, dun,
dance
dun,
and I
dun.
like classical music, but it just okay. The idea is that the vibrations bring the worms out. So many people do use liquids that they pour onto the ground, like beer or sugar water. Urinating is highly discouraged, but it still happens occasionally. So vinegar or anything toxic that may hurt the worms is prohibited because the safety of the worms is a high
Yeah.
priority. In
No
this.
worms were injured in the participation
right.
of this.
That's right. And-
festival.
or in this podcast. That's right. So, in fact, any participant that uses a liquid is required by the judges to first take a swig of it. So,
Oh. Yes,
So-
people, let that one sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
How did this one start?
well, you know. So there's also no digging. You have to entice the worms to come out by themselves. And if you grab one too soon, you run the risk of tearing it into pieces and
Uh-oh.
you don't get to count it.
Penalty.
Ugh.
So you have to have fully intact worms. The record was set in 1986, which, okay, so when did this start? This started in the
1980s,
1980s. So that
yeah.
was a really early record
Wow.
with 149 worms being collected. In 15
we can beat
minutes.
that. Come on now.
The lowest number of worms collected by a winner was just 19 because weather plays a large part in the cooperation of the worms.
That's true.
Cheaters will be disqualified and publicly humiliated, which I'm not sure exactly how, but that's got to be cool to see.
The humiliation?
Yeah, well, the whole thing, but
right,
that too. There's an official cheat that walks around with handfuls of worms trying to tempt participants to cheat. So apparently that's like part of
the gag.
And then all worms are rest assured, return to the ground after the competition.
Nice.
Yeah, they spread them back out.
And they do it at night to prevent the birds from finding them and chowing down.
Yeah, that's nice.
The festival's just a fun and wacky day with celebrants dressing up in costumes or fancy dress. There's dog shows. I don't know why there's dog shows, but there's dog shows attached to this. I don't know.
If the crowd can't see them, they got to go see something else.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, because watching worms come out there, I don't know. But it's just 15 minutes, so I guess I have to add other things. There's donkey rides and petting zoos, just fun all around. And now I want to go. Info from Rochambeau Unique Competitions and Extraordinary Events podcasts in their Worms, Small Food, and Two-Legged Horses episode.
That's a great combination right there.
I know, right?
Nice. I know of a local country boy here in the greater Cut and Shoot area who actually hooks up his pickup truck battery to a couple of posts in the ground with a couple of leads, and he says that he claims that brings the worms up out of the ground. I don't know for sure if that really is the case, but that's what he claims.
He does that in the graveyard to bring some people up out of the ground, like electrifying the ground.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Well, speaking of drunk Englishmen, let's move on to our next story. We actually have to take our shoes off and our socks off. And hopping again to the United Kingdom, it appears that back in 1974, this one's even older than that last one.
A few years before.
4 patrons of Ye Old Royal Oak Inn in Whetton, Staffordshire, England, were getting pretty deep into their cups as they began bemoaning the fact that the UK had failed to produce a world champion at anything for quite some period of time. Logically, if a new sport was invented that no one else knew about, then the country could boast a champion at last.
We'll just think up something new, and we'll be it.
So they did some experimenting. They tried ear wrestling. That didn't work out. They tried push of war rather than tug of war. That didn't quite work out. But then they finally hit on a real winner, toe wrestling. That's right. Toe wrestling. By the way, these fellas' names are Pete Cheatham, Eddie Stansfield, Peter Dean, and Mick Dawson. From the website called Denwasensei, DENWASSENSAI.com, we learned that the founding 4, noted above, developed a set of rules and even constructed small stages called toadiums, upon which the toe wrestling is to be accomplished.
You can't make this stuff up, folks, because honestly, that's awesome.
The match requires players to use bare feet, thus must take off their socks and shoes first. And as a common courtesy, a player is required to remove the socks and shoes of his opponent. How gentlemanly.
I'm not loving this. This is so uncomfortable.
How many bottles of hand sanitizer or foot sanitizer?
I don't know. But then the players would sit down and proceed to interlock their toes.
No.
Each person wrestling foot should be touching flat with the other person's wrestling foot. Meanwhile, the other foot should be raised in the air. One version of the sport requires a player to pin the opponent's foot to score. Once done, a referee will count to 3 seconds. If the other player's foot remains trapped for the entirety of the 3-second time, that would be a toe down.
Oh.
The player who successfully did the pinning gets a point. However, there's a more popular version of the sport that is played in tournaments. Yes, that's right.
Of course.
They have toe wrestling tournaments.
Well, yeah, if you're going to do wrestling.
In this version,
tournament.
A referee will say, toes away. and with that mark, the players would need to make their opponent's foot touch one of the sideboards of the toadium to score. The first player to score 2 points wins the game. The first round is played using the right foot, the second with the left, and then if the right foot again if the game ends in a tiebreaker. So go back to the right foot. So if you are stronger with your right foot, you have an advantage under those rules. It seems
best
like
2 out of 3. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about that. You have to. Okay, so like when you arm wrestle, you do both both right arms or both left arms. But I guess when you toe wrestle, it has to be
one right, one left.
Yeah,
and then the
go back to the
tiebreaker.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mick Dawson, one of the founding four, won the first toe wrestling championship in 1974 and then again the following year. However, in 1976, sadly, the British saw the toe trophy taken by a Canadian.
Darn Canadians.
They let them come across the pond?
The home country regained the championship again in 1994 with the efforts of Alan, quote, Nasty Nash.
Okay, wait. They lost it from 76
to 94.
To 94.
Oh, wow.
And then 94 they held it. Okay.
Now, Nash has actually won the title 16 times, most recently in 2019. He might have won even more. However, I love this is wording right from their website.
Oh, this is going to be great.
The Toe Wrestling Championship had to be canceled between the years 2003 and 2009 due to an unruly crowd. So they couldn't work it in during those.
And I'm like,
that's a 6-year period.
They have to have rules about toenails. Like, you can't have these claws, I'm
that would
sure.
Be bad, yeah. Alan has the very essence of the sport in mind. Nasty Nash, this is his quote from him. He says, "The Brits invented toe wrestling, hoping to be best at something. I am a very patriotic man, and I want to make sure that when I retire, it's a good Englishman who beats me." So there we go.
So I picture like Mr. Bean. Oh my! I don't like that festival. I just
you get a little squeamish.
Yes,
well, you raised a bunch of boys that had bare feet in the house. I guess.
Yeah, feet are nasty.
Well, now back to the good old United States. From CultureTrip.com, we learn about the fascinating town of Nederland, Colorado, and their 3-day-long Frozen Dead Guy Days festival.
What?
Every March, the people of Nederland break out their coffins and frozen turkeys and toast a cold one in honor of Grandpa Brito. It turns out that there is an actual history to the 3-day death-themed shindig, and it all centers around a Norwegian guy named Brito Morstol, who, as luck would have it, didn't ever actually visit the United States until after he died, which occurred in 1989.
Okay, can we just take... Yeah,
wait.
Let's take a minute.
Just let this sink in.
When I asked you to be a part of this podcast, did you think you'd ever say that sentence?
No,
a
that
3-day death-themed shindig.
Frozen Dead Guy Day.
Oh, goodness.
Festival.
We're all about quality.
Well, anyway, Brito's grandson, I can't even say his name, let's say Turgay Bog, had his grandpa shipped overseas and stored in a cryogenics facility until he put the finishing touches on his own homemade cryogenic storage chamber.
Why not?
Involving a tough shed.
You can pick one of those up at Home Depot.
Behind his house where he lived in Nederland with his mother. He believed that science would one day find a way to counteract aging and the body's frailties, and that his grandfather would be able to be reanimated. Brito's body remained peacefully in a tough shed behind the house, built to withstand all manner of natural disasters, packed with some 1,600 pounds of dry ice each month.
So it really was a tough shed. I thought you made that up.
Okay. Everything was going swell until the family was evicted and finally sent back to Norway. Then the question became what to do about Grandpa Brito.
Okay, I wonder why they were evicted.
He wasn't evicted, evidently.
Were they evicted because of Grandpa Brito, or did they not know that? Okay,
we don't have
those details. He just got kicked out, and Brito got to stay.
I don't know why he got evicted or why they had to go back to Norway, but he got to stay. Well, after a slew of town meetings and some new legislation about keeping frozen bodies on private property was passed, Brito was quite literally grandfathered in. And town councilman Bo Schaefer, who is now known as the Iceman, was hired to play caretaker to the frozen dead guy in the shed. Now, for over 20 years, he and his team of volunteers go once a month to pack Brito's body with ice and keep him at a constant temperature of minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And so a legend was born. The already quirky mountain town embraced Brito's presence with open arms and created Frozen Dead Guy Days, which has launched into a 3-day festival that draws in people from all over the world. The festival now features 30 live bands, as well as a whole slew of death and ice-themed events, from coffin racing and frozen turkey bowling to the costumed polar plunge and frozen t-shirt competitions.
I'd compete in the frozen turkey bowling, I have to admit. But I would ask, are they going to change it into or add another layer of it called turkey curling?
Turkey
Just
curling.
saying.
Oh,
You
that
could
would be
combine
cool.
Yeah,
it.
just turkey.
I think the
frozen
Canadians
turkey
are pushing for that.
Right,
yeah.
frozen turkey curling into the festival. I mean,
Right.
that would make sense, you know.
Now, the festival kicks off on a Friday night with the Blue Ball, a night of dancing and live entertainment. The weekend is chock full of events, and 3-day passes are available. There's plenty of food, beer, and fun for everyone involved. So if you're looking for something different to do this March, it sounds like Frozen Dead Guy Days up in Nederland, Colorado is a solid option for you.
Reservations required.
Oh.
I looked at Leah just a second ago. She finishing. She's like, "Leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Leave the
Just
blue
leave it
ball
alone."
Okay,
There's no
moving on.
wedding involved, as far as I know.
Then bringing it in. The next one is a competition rather than festival or celebration, but it's too cool not to mention. Every year since 1996, people from all over gather to compete in the Air Guitar World Championships.
Yeah, air guitar.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Musician Juka Takelo, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, is the genius that came up with the idea of having this type of competition. The first one was held in 1996 in Oulu, Finland. I think it's Oulu. I think it's Oulu.
Oulu.
Yeah, as part of the music festival, but over the years, the event has grown into its own event and spread into competitions around the world in over 10 different countries.
Wow.
So in 2021, just last year, the countries in the official Air Guitar World Championship Network are USA, Iceland, the UK, Japan, Canada, France, Germany, Thailand, Australia, Belgium, Poland, Chile, and Taiwan.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So air guitarists take the competition very seriously. Creativity is the main focus, with all manner of costumes, body paint, and guitar playing techniques being displayed to the delight of the spectators.
Nice.
And I think what happens is they get to choose a song to do their air guitar to, and then one song is chosen for them. So, yeah.
Wow. All right.
According to airguitarchampionships.com, the purpose of the competition is to promote world peace. According to the ideology of the competition, wars would end, climate change stop, and all bad things disappear if all the people in the world played the air guitar.
Well, that's
Yeah,
they got a point there.
Yeah, it would relieve stress.
This is why the whole universe is invited to play the air guitar for the world peace at the end of the competition. So everybody.
And then to
participates at
soothe
the
your
end.
fingers, you go to Pyongyang's mud festival.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, I've seen
But
how this works.
The official motto is "Make air, not war," which to me
Nice.
sounds like a farting competition. But
You've raised too many boys.
That's the way.
and
There's a different championship for that. You just
Yeah.
didn't put it in this
yeah,
episode.
I did.
Right.
I'm sure there's one out there. I got my information from Wikipedia.
Nice.
And now it's time, boys and girls, for the Trivia Challenge.
All right, it's time for that trivia challenge again. You know how this works. You want to like and follow our Facebook page, at Remnant Stew Podcast. Like and share this episode post. Put your answer to the trivia challenge question in the comments of that post. The first person to do all of that will be the winner and will be mentioned in an upcoming episode of Remnant Stew. So,
And-
Leah, what is our question today?
Okay, well, before we get to it, I might send you some socks to cover your nasty feet.
Ooh, yeah.
I have some really cool socks to send out. So
Clean.
people answering our trivia questions have kind of dropped off lately for some reason.
Oh,
And
come on,
so
folks.
Come on,
get in
step
there
back
Stick
up.
up.
and
Come on, let's
yeah,
go.
that's right. Let's go. So this festival held every May is believed to be over 600 years old. It involves 4 competitions, 3 for men and 1 for women. It is a bit notorious because it results in several participant entries each year. What is this festival and where is it located?
Oh, that's an interesting one. That's a really interesting one.
Phil here, reminding you to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at Remnant Stew Podcast. Drop us an email at staycurious@remnantstew.com just to say hi or let us know about any topics you would like to hear us cover in an upcoming episode.
Remnant Stew is created by me, Leah Lamp. Dr. Stephen Meeker and I research, write, and host each episode, along with plenty of commentary by our audio producer, Philip Sinquefield.
You make it sound good, Phil.
Theme music is by Kevin MacLeod with voiceover by Morgan Hughes. Special thanks goes out to Judy Meeker and Harbin Gould.
Before you go, please hit the follow button so you won't miss an episode. Head over to Apple Music and leave us a review.
Please.
Share Remnant Stew with your friends, family, and your local undertaker. Until next time, remember to choose to be kind and always stay curious.